Hello, and welcome to a special bonus episode of How We Made Your Mother. We like to call these general questions. General questions. Chris,
I heard an extra voice on there. I heard an extra voice.
Who was that extra voice?
Who was that?
It's me. I decided not to leave.
Yeah.
We can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
We keep saying, just click off, shut the laptop.
This is our first ever guest on the general questions. General questions.
Very exciting.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for being here. Chris wrote Game Night episode 15, which we did a great discussion on that a couple days ago. And Chris is back to answer all your questions and dispel
Why is he wearing
myths and
He's wearing the
rumors.
same shirt. We're all wearing the same clothes as a few days ago.
We've been on a
really
3-day
weird.
bender. It's a 3-day bender.
Don't ruin the magic.
We had so much to catch up on. We haven't left the computer since Monday. All right, here we go.
All right. So, Alec, what do we got?
Here we go. So one of our biggest supporters, not our biggest, but the show's biggest supporters, Swirly Memes, has a lot to say. And so Swirly Memes, I'm sure you're listening to this. I hope that currently this is being clipped. Like right now, I'm in a Swirly meme. That would be incredibly exciting. And Swirly Memes says, Chris Harris, that's the mini cherry on top of the regular cherry on top of the sundae of awesomeness that is this podcast. And then says,
yes.
and I'm just going to read this. It's a lovely note to Chris with a question at the end. Chris, what I love about your episodes is how we always find ourselves in silly situations like game night, club night, award night, concert night, removing tattoo, fixing a car, hippie wedding venue, effed up house or subway, but they still have so much heart and force the characters to reveal their true selves or grow into a better person. Because in the end, it's not those silly moments with the people we love dearly that we remember, not the big weddings and whatnot. So to turn that into a bit of a question, Chris, can you just, because you do these larger episodes, often going all the way up to Subway Wars and that size, can you just talk about putting together the scope versus the character?
Yeah, I'm torn between such a lovely compliment and also like being exposed for having a very simple formula for everything I've ever written. I don't know. I don't know if I think of it as it's always, How I Met Your Mother was always great about these are the big moments in this person's life, and that's the virtue of the perspective of the dad talking to his kids years later, is like we have an excuse to skip over the small things and talk about like this is when I started dating this person, this is when these two broke up, this is when this person returned, and so I think the big events go along with that, and they're always fun to put characters in a new situation, obviously to see how they'll react. But no, I feel lucky that I got to write a lot of these, especially in these early seasons. Carter and Craig came in with the idea about the club. They came in with Barney and Game Night. So it was a lot of fun to play with those worlds that the characters got to jump into.
It's also like there are big events in How I Met Your Mother, but you could make the argument that every episode is a big event, or he wouldn't be telling the story.
Yeah,
it feels
exactly.
like if he's telling it, it landed on it lingered for him, and it also shaped him.
Yeah, when we pitched the show, we pitched like it's the 100 best stories of your 20s and 30s, hoping that we'd hit 100 episodes, and then we did 208. So that back 108 were just more like B-, C+.
But it's also like is it Gene Shepard who you keep referring to, the Christmas
Gene
story?
Shepard.
Yeah. The
What
pineapple
sticks with
incident. We talk a lot about like Ted is mythologizing his life.
Yes.
He's
like we all do.
Yeah.
Like we all do, right? We're all the main characters in our stories. And what are the things you'll remember 25 years from 2005? And that was the test of season 1 of the show. And I think Game Night was a good one because it is so eventful. It raises the bar on how eventful and memorable you have to try to make things in this show, because he has to remember it in the future.
And I love that notion, Josh, of like Ted's mythologizing his own, because I do feel like that's such a part of it is, even the return, like giving these names to these events.
Yeah.
Yes. Very Gene Shepard naming the events. It's like it's a historical document, right? It's like the Battle of Valley Forge.
And also the kind of coded language that friend groups develop. You have this kind of patois.
Craig, my wife Sarah had this question for you a couple of weeks ago, and it fits nicely now. Of like, in the Supreme Court, if the Chief Justice is in the majority, they get to choose who writes the opinion. You and Carter obviously got to choose who writes each episode. Was Chris at a certain point chosen for a certain scope, a certain kind of episode? And in general, how did you decide how many you guys would write and how many you would give away?
Boy, I mean, in season 1, I can't say there was much of a formula. It was more just like keeping our head above water and stuff. And I think, Chris, I think you were 3 of them in season 1. Is that right?
I did, yeah.
And I'd say that's because we knew Chris would kill it. You're excited to give a guy like Chris an episode because you know it's going to come in really good, and you're going to not need to have late nights on that one. At that point, we had never run a TV show before, so at that point, I can't say it was anything more than this was a big one. We're learning who Barney was. It had to advance the story in the present while showing us who Barney was in the past. High degree of difficulty. Give it to Chris. I think that was part of so it was a compliment to Chris for sure.
But it also felt to me like in the arc of who was writing what, it always felt like the first episode was a you and Carter, the finales were you and Carter, and
right.
1 or 2 in the middle were you and Carter, right?
Yeah, some more than 1 or 2. We usually did because there were 2 of us. And one guy could still be running the day-to-day of the show and the other guy could peel off and write one. And it was sort of like, that's how we do it. One of us would sort of mostly do one episode and then the other, but both our names were on it.
It's really like a Lennon and McCartney situation, right? Like McCartney wrote Blackbird, but it's a Lennon McCartney song.
Yeah, except like a much worse Lennon and McCartney. Like them, but nowhere near as talented.
Right.
So that kind of gives you the scope.
And every once in a while, I come in with my octopus's garden. And,
it's great to have you here, Ringo.
Oh, my God. Here comes the sun, motherfucker. Here comes the sun. That's Chris Harris. Come on. Don't. But by the way, Octopus's Garden's fucking great, too. So no one's losing out here.
Yeah.
We love you, Ringo. But yeah, Carter and I, we would sort of mostly take one or the other, but it would always kind of go through the other guy first. You'd say, hey, add some awesomeness, give help, or sometimes help dig me out of a problem on this. So we would each weigh in on each other's episodes. But over time, it became more like Carter ran a room, I ran a room, and then we sort of traded. So it was like that. But Chris, we would have given Chris this episode with great glee, knowing it was a really important big one.
Okay, so a lot of questions, Chris, from the fans. We were talking about the fact that fans, especially ones who came to it later or binging it, they get the whole series as a book that they just read all at once. Whereas you're making it as a newspaper, right? You're just sort of making one every day and hoping that if you see a fire truck in one episode and 7 years later, there's another fire truck, were you planning on there being 2 fire trucks? Right? They kind of see all of that. So there's a couple of questions on that. I just want to talk about in the large, this notion of how much you were looking at big picture, planning ahead, or that you were just treading water. For example, in Drumroll Please, season 1, episode 13, Barney picks up a bridesmaid saying he's going to be away for 2 years with the Peace Corps. Was that foreshadowing of this episode, or did you just think about it as a callback, or are you not noting it till I literally am saying it to you right now based on your face?
Can I recover and say it was all planned? I have no recollection of that, but they were pretty close together. So I wonder.
I think we owned it. I think we thought.
I wonder if we did know.
We thought that Barney had some, like, the ingredients for that lie were based on some part of who he used to be. I think we did own it. Or we liked that sort of echoed that. I think that was semi-intentional.
But it's also funny to consider, like, if she quizzed him on the Peace Corps, he'd be able to ace it. He would know
things he knows how to talk about.
He would know how to answer those questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was intentional.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
Josh Radnor, you were out on the road, on tour, playing amazing music in various places around America. We have not heard much about it. Could you just paint us a little word picture of what the tour was like?
Yeah, I started in Seattle, and the people there were lovely because I showed up with a terrible sinus infection that turned into a respiratory infection. So I really had to recruit this crowd in Seattle to be on my side, which I did. And they were amazing. And it was, the joy of live performance. Like, look, I'm lowering everything half a step. I'm going to do the best I can. My opener, Ari Tibby, is a great friend of mine, and she has the most extraordinary Linda Ronstadt effortless voice. And I said, when I opened, I said, that phase of the evening, that effortless, beautiful voice, that time's over. That time's over.
And then you're going to hear a real strain after this.
I said, tonight's going to be like Steve Earle meets Leonard Cohen meets Kermit the Frog. But I realized, like, that's a cool voice. That's a soulful.
I'd pay for that show.
Right? That's a good voice.
You sold me. I want to see that.
Yeah. So I was down there.
Voice.
My second show in Portland, my voice was like almost mostly back. San Francisco, it felt fully back. And then we had great shows in, they were all great in their own way. In Sacramento, in Los Angeles at the Troubadour, where Doug and Alec came and saw me. And then San Diego, we were at the House of Blues, the Voodoo Room. That was a huge, awesome show. And then I ended up at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix, which I don't know if you've ever been, but if you are in Phoenix, please go to the Musical Instrument Museum. It's like the greatest.
Did you go to it? You went. You
performed
at that museum.
I'm telling you, Elliot would freak out at this museum.
My son Elliot, that would be. That's Field of Dreams to Elliot.
Amazing.
That is Field of Dreams. My little
and
music
I also, because you go on the road and, some people, I realize some people are coming there because they love How I Met Your Mother and they're wearing ducky ties, right? But then by the end, you're like, I think I converted them into fans of music of mine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how people come in, but I think they leave feeling that they've spent a nice evening with me. And, it was great to meet people from just all over, people came in. People said, I flew in from Fiji. I flew in from the Philippines. I flew in from Mexico to see you. I mean, it was really extraordinary. I saw a lot of How I Met Your Mother tattoos. A lot of people, hand you art, that bracelets they've made and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was quite moving. It was really sweet.
So I'm getting the vibe like you're feeling pretty content, pretty satisfied, pretty evolved, pretty good about yourself, yeah?
Well,
feeling pretty good about yourself?
I don't know, Craig. I mean, I had a good, meaningful time that was also hard, but most things that are meaningful have some struggle in them, don't you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that, and I'm about to add a little more struggle as I blow your mind.
What is it?
While you were on this tour, you could have been making some extra cash by hosting your place on Airbnb. Boom! I've just destroyed the entire tour. You'll never think about it the same way again, because now it's a missed opportunity.
I'll never leave home without... hosting my home on Airbnb.
I mean, that would be the smart move. In fact, your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host.
We talked about this a little bit on the main episode. But just to go over it again, because a lot of people talked about the board games. A lot of people talked about the board game and Lily's father, Terry OD02. Oh, by the way, I want to give to that previous question that was Gabrern 15. This is Terry OD02. Was this knowingly the beginning of Marshall's love of making board games throughout the series? And if so, who or what was the inspiration of this character trait? Where did this come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about it in the main episode of the main podcast episode. I think it was a lot of Chris. There was a lot of Chris in there. Yeah, Chris loves stuff like that, right? I mean, that was you.
Yeah, I don't know if I had the original notion that Marshall is great at games and makes up his own games. I think that might have just been a room thing, but I definitely jumped on that in terms of like, oh, I can write this.
You love that world.
I know
Byzantine,
this character.
Very intricate. Like,
I bet I can get. It sounds tough, but I bet I can get inside the head of someone who likes games and puzzles. It's going to be really difficult.
Well, you really made that stretch, Chris. It was really a brave leap.
Isn't it funny to consider, though, in the first season of something, if you think, okay, one of these characters is obsessive about board games, you could kind of make the case that any of them could be.
Yeah.
Or conversely, any of them hated board games. Like you were still assigning things to people.
Totally. Yeah. Robin's super competitive, so she's super into games.
Yeah. Or
Lily,
Robin hates board games. She can't stand them. She had an incident in high school with board games. It scarred her. Ted, you could very clearly see being in board games,
It does echo. It echoes with Basketball a little bit, like the idea of the Ericksons invent weird games. It echoes with that.
That's cool.
I don't remember if that was intentional or not, but it does a little bit.
That's a great point. But yeah, to Josh's point, like at the beginning of a season of a show, like that's both the exciting thing. You can assign anything to anyone, but it's also the scary thing because you don't know. you know, like later on, oh, Marshall, you know, who wants to be a godparent? We know that Marshall loves games. This makes sense, and so we have this information about these characters that we can extrapolate and build further stories from. But there's a lot of blank slate at the beginning of a show, so it's
now in the writers' room. Is it just like a collective hive mind memory? Are the writers' assistants like the gatekeepers of like, no, you can't do that because you have this? Like, how does that work?
Writer assistants are very helpful in that regard. We had really good ones on our show, and they go, wait a second, no, you said this earlier. What was great is anyone on staff could do that, though. You know, like hair and makeup could say that. Dave Baker and props could say that. Like, everyone cared for the intricacy of this universe we were creating, the kind of world building component, that I think we got those notes and those good catches. And sometimes those clever pitches, sometimes you go down to the set and either set deck or Dave or whoever had added things in based on character traits from earlier episodes, seasons, years before, and you come and you go, you remembered this. There's a Loch Ness
like
Monster thing.
A poster hanging in a room that is just like a really funny, subtle joke. You know, and that's props, that's set dressing. That's like
a lot of the time the writing had nothing to do with those touches, and it was just how genius the larger creative team was on this show.
So I have a good conversation started to end us in the next question, but the penultimate question here is definitely the one that had the most questions on Instagram. And again, it goes to how much you know. I think it's like the George Lucas version of it, that he knew a lot of this, he had this plan, but oh, did he really have that plan and this and that? And then there's the Vince Gilligan version of writing, where he really always talked about, we had no idea. We just kept writing ourselves into corners. We knew nothing that was going next. We'd write a cold open to something we didn't know what we're going to pay off. We only have somewhat, So the question is, okay, says strawberrysmoothie.jpg and so many other people, I've been waiting for this. Who gave Robin the mat? Is it Ted or Barney? This question has plagued me for years.
Oh.
So
interesting.
That's an interesting take. I don't take it as a question.
It's interesting because it never crossed my mind that it could have been someone other than Ted.
Oh,
yeah,
we're talking about the Sherbatsky welcome mat that he had.
I
didn't think I thought it was Ted.
I forgot something.
100% Ted. 100% Ted. This was Ted making a nice gesture that actually plants an interesting seed of what's going to happen with Ted and Victoria moving forward. I think I really liked that moment, but it was for sure Ted.
But I also thought that it could have been Robin until it was the reveal of Victoria that gave Ted the plastic vomit.
You're right.
And that was saying like that could have been her, but it's also a nice detente, is that the word? Like, it's a peace offering.
Their weirdness.
Because the last we saw was that awkwardness, and then it's like, okay, it seems like they're getting past.
I really liked how awkward that moment was, by the way, and Barney's like, you were right, Ted, you really shouldn't have told that story. That was a good,
like, literally just swimming in that awkwardness, and it doesn't really get resolved except for that moment in the montage.
But that moment of resolution is important. We had to reconnect Ted and Victoria to like deepen them in the next couple of episodes. And that little moment between them is really important. It's a great song too, that My Morning Jacket song off the record. Great indie rock needle drop. And that is important because we need to care about and invest in Victoria, because what's to come between them is going to be like the main narrative in the next couple of episodes. I really like that little moment between them.
I remembered one little breaking the story thing that I could throw in really fast, which was at one point in the room when Carter and Craig were not away, there was this extra twist that was added where it was like, oh, this actually was an audition tape, and Barney faked being this whole story just to get Ted to tell the re-return. And it was so smart to like, no, of course not. That's too much. It breaks the story.
The snake ate its tail. Yeah.
And it's like, it's too much. And I feel like that was a learning experience for me, which like, no, let's live in this. This is the real of how Barney was. And I don't know. I just remember thinking, oh wow, that was such the right call.
I completely forgot about that.
It was like an extra twist, and we're like, oh no, now it's just all
a twist on a twist. It's a hat on a hat.
It must be a hat on a hat. When you guys think, it must be fun to watch these episodes, because in your mind you might actually think, no, that did happen, because it happened in the writers' room, and you forget where it landed. Chris, I'm just now remembering that you and I had a bit that lasted almost all 9 seasons. Wasn't the bit that I thought you were lying about having gone to Stanford?
Yes, you had a. In fact, I had. Hold on. I wondered if you were going to bring that up. So I said, when will Josh use the phrase "back when I was at Stanford"?
Back when I was,
which is think. But I guess 1326 in on the original.
Oh my god! Now we're 19.
Oh my god! No, that was the bit. It was the bit that I said that you were always saying, starting sentences, really good, back Chris. When I was at Stanford, and then it evolved into, I don't think you actually went to Stanford.
Then it became, come on, what you don't. It was something like you don't need to say this to me. I'm not. Don't try to impress me.
And I remember you kept going like, no, I really did go there.
I did. I went there.
I know, because you say back when I was at Stanford all the time.
But the idea that Chris had the guess pre-written on like sort of like a newlywed game style.
It's like Johnny
card.
Carson's envelope. Like
it's the great Karnak. Like, but the fact that Chris just did that, Chris was just Marshall in this episode. Yeah. Chris was just the game master. He held up. He had a guess of the time. That was full. Like that was Marshall.
That was wild. And it didn't even occur to me until right now. And we've been talking for a long time.
I know. I'm flattered. I'm flattered. It didn't come up earlier.
There's a deeper thing at play, which is the writers and the actors got to know each other and were friends and really like symbiotic. It was a symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then stories went back and forth and things that actors, stories came out of things that happened on stage. It was awesome.
And just to say it, not to sound too back in my day or too like pro-union guy, this is what the Writers Guild was striking for, in part, right? The idea that writers should be on shoots. Writers shouldn't pre-write things and then disappear and then it's shot and they're separate. The actors and the writers getting to know each other actually impacts the final product.
And when Chris was on set for his own episodes, he would come up with alt lines that were hilarious and made it into the episodes. I remember I would accuse you, you would say, back when I was at Stanford, do you think Ted has to cross on that line or should he cross on this line? I was like, Chris, you didn't need to say back when I was at Stanford.
I really don't think I said that, Josh. I can't believe we're having this argument again.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we're delighted. The door is open. Please come back and
you're coming back.
Talk about How I Met Your Mother once again. You when I think about How I Met Your Mother, your face is on the Mount Rushmore. So thanks for being here and
despite the Stanford lie.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven in New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alec Lev, and our co-producer is Doug Matica. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios, and our digital content producer, aka Gen Z Master, is Emily Blumberg. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor, with additional music by Craig Thomas and Andrew Majewski. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyourmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Want some merch? Click on the store link or go to howyougetyourmerch.com. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Order Craig Thomas's debut novel at craigthomaswriter.com/novel. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question, it just hit me. Am I in love with you or just New York City?